Welcome to Season 2 of the Let's Talk podcast hosted by WellHouse Church, where we talk about what it's like to be a Christian Monday through Saturday, to be a person of faith in a culture against faith. So let's talk about reading more.
Let's do it.
First of all, what does reading more actually mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what most people mean when they do this as a New Year's resolution is they want to read more books.
Right.
I think we all read.
Yeah. To some degree.
Yeah, but I think for most of us, it's like reading related to work. It's reading emails. It's reading the news.
It's reading for school for some people.
Random stuff on Twitter, Instagram. I think
articles.
Yeah, I think we all read. But what I found when I was doing the research is that a lot of people are wanting to get back into reading specifically because honestly, they don't want to keep looking at a screen.
Yeah.
And actually, like
holding a physical copy,
an actual book, is something very different. I read lots.
I actually find it calming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it calms my nerves to actually hold a book and look at the words on the page. Mm-hmm. I think it's because there's not blue light in my face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like blue light statistically and scientifically has been proven to cause anxiety, right? And so if you're looking at something and you're taking in content in this way that your brain is not used to, that is not forcing blue light in your face, it kind of makes sense that it'd be calming and like it would help your anxiety.
I would think so. And so that's why lots of people are wanting to read more, is they want to read more books, and they specifically don't want to look at a screen anymore.
Right.
Now, I'm a huge proponent of reading. Exhibit A. I love to read. It's one of my favorite things. So I don't care how you read.
Just read. Just
get more reading.
Yeah. And even if more reading for you means one book a year.
Yeah. If it takes you an entire year to read one book, and that's one book more than you read last year,
fantastic.
Who's to say that you're wrong for that? Yeah. I mean, we have different levels of reading even amongst us.
My goal.
I asked you, how many books is your goal to read this year?
Like 7.
I think, yeah, you said 7.
Cullen's is like 50.
No, mine's 100.
I was actually kidding. I didn't actually think it was that high.
No, mine's 100. I haven't done this in a few years, but for 3 years, I did this goal to read 100 books in a year, and I accomplished it 2 out of the 3 years that I did it. Now, that was a long time. That was pre-kids and long time ago. But I am a reader. I just enjoy reading. And so I read a lot more than most people. Don't make me the litmus test. I'm a nerd. I don't really have a life. I just sit around and read books.
He's a scholar.
I'm not a scholar. I'm just a nerd. No, I'm not a scholar. I'm not. I'm
a gentleman and a scholar.
What does he say? Take my most valiant steed.
Take my most valiant steed.
Windcatcher. Isn't that his name?
His name is Windjammer.
Oh, Windjammer. That's right.
His name is Windjammer.
It's from How I Met Your Mother, if you're needing a reference there.
Which How I Met Your Father is out now.
I don't even care.
Okay.
I'm actually quite mad about this.
Well, we can talk about that off air.
Yeah, I'm actually quite mad about that. But, so reading more books, what I want to say is,
do it.
Number one, kudos for you for wanting to read more.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is ever harmed by reading.
No.
I don't think anyone is ever harmed by getting more perspectives on any issue.
You're not harmed. You become armed.
Ooh.
You know, like when you read, you become like, there's pieces of it that you take, you know, whether it's I agree with this or I disagree with this.
Yeah.
Right. You can't read and not stimulate critical thinking. Even if you're reading fiction, like there's still pieces of it that you're pulling apart, you're trying to understand. Reading forces critical thinking, which helps you formulate your own thoughts and feelings and beliefs on things.
I think in an ideal world,
Sure,
reading does that. But I do think for most people, if you were not trained in critical thinking, I think when you read, you just become indoctrinated.
Oh,
and you just
that's
you
fair.
either just accept what's on the page or reject it.
Well, so for sure. If you're one of those people that has already been indoctrinated, I think more people are willing to step out and see what other people have to say about things.
Maybe
than we actually give credit for.
Maybe. What I was more so getting at is like if you went to school pre-1990, critical thinking wasn't the way that's not the way we trained people in education.
No.
And so if you're not trained that way, you're not going to read a book with that in mind.
Yeah. I wasn't even trained in critical thinking. I didn't start getting that
until
until college. Yeah, until I got to college.
But I'm talking about even in like before 1990. If your degree is before 1990 from college, you probably were not trained in critical thinking.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Now, you might do some of it.
Right. I think naturally humans just think critically. Maybe some better than others, but
okay, yeah.
I think we all think critically about things.
Yeah, I would say that's probably fair. So, yes, I agree with you that reading does arm us, as you quite well, might I add, said it.
Thank you.
And there's lots of data that suggests that reading is really good for like your mental health and just engaging your mind that way.
Yeah.
So there's lots of great things that come from reading. But just like in anything, I wouldn't get caught up on a number. Like, oh, I've got to read this many books.
Or even this many pages or chapters a day.
Right. I wouldn't do it that way. If it feels like one more task you have to do.
Sometimes reading is a task, though, for school or work or something else. Like, yeah, sometimes you do have to set those goals for you to make sure you get that reading done. But if you're reading for like recreation.
Yeah, if you're embarking on this point where you're like, I'm going to read more because I don't want to be goofing off on my phone as much. Okay. Well, read something you like.
Yeah.
And it won't be a grind. Or read something you're interested in. I'm currently reading. I have 4 commentaries that I'm working through as we go through Acts here at the church. I am reading the fiction book, The Hate You Give. Fantastic book if you like fiction. I'm trying to read more fiction. I don't read enough fiction.
I definitely don't read enough fiction.
So I'm currently reading The Hate You Give. I'm also reading Struggling with Evangelicalism, which is a fantastic book. But I just read Brian Zahn's book on deconstruction. Just finished Rachel Held Evans' book, Inspired.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things that you can read.
Yeah.
Even if like all of those except The Hate You Give, right, are within the realm of Christian faith, but they're very different. Those commentaries over there are technical, analytical resources sifting through Greek and ancient languages, like, yeah, probably not
Most people's
cup of tea.
Yeah, that's. I'm reading several things right now that are very social work specific, and most people would not care about.
No, but I think everyone could benefit from reading Inspired.
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody could benefit from reading engaging theology.
Yeah, that one. Well, that one's written as an introductory level, like college textbook,
right?
So I don't think
maybe
it's quite
some
as
would
accessible.
enjoy it,
yeah,
than others.
I just don't know how accessible it is.
What I'm trying to say is everyone would benefit from reading it.
They would. Well, and I think the content is there, but their writing styles as academics, I don't think it makes it as approachable. Which means people are not going to want to read it. They're going to get in and go, "This is boring reading."
Yeah, this feels like a college textbook, which it's because
Correct.
it is.
It's what it is. But something like Inspired, I think everyone could benefit from.
Yeah.
Brian Zahn's new book, When Everything's on Fire. That's a fantastic book if you're going through deconstruction of your faith. I wish that book would have been. I wish I would have had access to that book 9 years ago.
Yeah.
When I started going through deconstruction.
One of the books that I'm reading right now is Evicted by Matthew Desmond. It tells a story of poverty in Milwaukee. And it's honestly... So this is a podcast about faith and culture, and this is a big part of our culture right now is poverty. Yeah. Like whether you want to admit it or not, poverty is there, and it's telling this story of multiple families struggling. I would encourage you to go read that. It will tug on your heartstrings. I guarantee it. And it will change your perspectives on lots of things. And that's the point about reading, is gaining new perspectives, hearing new voices.
That's the other thing I would say is if you're just going to read people that confirm how you already view the world, you're missing the joy of reading.
Yeah.
The ability to gain someone else's perspective.
That's the whole point.
And challenge your own thought processes and the ways that you view and interact and engage with the world. For instance, The Hate You Give. That's also a movie. I watched the movie first, which is very strange because I don't really watch a lot of movies. It was just kind of one of those things that happened. But I watched the movie first, and the movie is fantastic. Like in everything, I'm a reader, and so I'm just convinced the book's going to be better, right?
Yeah.
So the first opportunity I got to read The Hate You Give, I was like, yeah, I'm going to read it. 4 pages in, I knew several things 4 pages in. Number one, that the author is a far better writer than I could ever dream of being. Second of all, the book was going to be leaps and bounds better than the movie. Leaps and bounds better than the movie. And number 3, I watched the movie. I know exactly what those characters looked like.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a better picture of who they are the way the book described them than seeing them on the television. Also, just be aware, if you have seen the movie and you go read the book, the characters in the movie don't look anything like how they're written down in the book, which is kind of frustrating. But
I had that experience reading The Shack for so many years, and then watching the movie, I was like, no, this is all wrong.
Yeah,
Everything like, this is not how I pictured it in my head.
Yeah. I usually stand by the idea that the book is better than the movie. So there's plenty of things out there for you to read. I mean, The Hate You Give is a fantastic book if you're into fiction. And the author of it, I think her name's Angie Thomas, is what her name is. She has a new book that just came out too. So there's two easy ones right there. There's also great, like, hell, one of the goals that I have this year is I want to read through the Harry Potters again.
Yeah.
I haven't read through Harry Potter. I don't think I've ever read the last one. I only own the first two. I'm going to have to go find them and buy them. But I just think that let me say it this way. One of the goals and benefits of reading is not just learning and being challenged, but
it's all authors, whether they're doing it in a direct way or not, a direct way meaning narrative, but like they're all telling a story.
They are. They're all storytellers.
And I think that that's the beautiful piece that you miss out on when you don't read.
I think the beauty of reading is it forces you to listen. Because when we have a conversation, if I'm reading a book, I'm having a conversation with the author.
Mm.
But the author is the only one that has a voice that receives an ear.
Mm.
He doesn't, right? Whoever the author is isn't listening to my side of the conversation. If we were having that conversation in person, I, like all people, am guilty of the temptation of not really listening to the person across from me and just waiting for them to stop so I can say my rebuttal.
Right.
Reading forces you to listen to people.
That's interesting. That's a good perspective.
And in forcing you to listen, it helps you process, and it helps you be a better communicator. It helps you be a better human, because I'm convinced that the reason that we have the problems that we have in the world, let me rephrase that. The reason that we have the problems that we have in America is because we don't listen to one another.
Yeah.
American culture is dedicated to selfish, obnoxious people, and that's who gets to the top.
Mm-hmm.
It's right. It's the the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
Whoever's loudest is the one that gets the attention. Like, we don't listen well. And if we continue to just, okay, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so I'll just squeak louder. Well, that's not helping anything. That's just perpetuating a very terrible problem.
Right.
Reading forces us to really think about what it means to listen and digest people's thoughts and opinions outside of our own in a way that we can't stop and like interrupt their train of thought.
Yeah.
Now, I do that. You can go look through any book I've read. That's not true. I go through seasons where I don't mark books up as bad as I do sometimes. But you can go through most of the books on this shelf, and you'll see I laugh. I put LOL in the comment, like in the margins. I have a note-taking system. If it's noteworthy, I put a star next to it. If it's real important, I put an exclamation point next to it. If it's like penultimate importance, I put 3 exclamation points next to it. And if I agree with it, I'll put a check mark. If I really agree with it, I'll put 3 check marks. I'll write comments. I'll argue. I'll ask questions. I'll be like, no, this is stupid. This is not how this plays out. I write it all in there. So I'm definitely having a conversation.
Mm.
The difference is like it just forces me to listen because nobody hears my side.
Right.
And most of the things, especially these days, most of the things I read, I don't really have anybody to talk to about them.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a ton of benefit that comes from wanting to read more. I just want you to be reading the right way. Like, I want you to be reading with the right perspectives and goals in mind of listening better, being open to critical thinking, engaging other perspectives. Don't read people that have the same voice or demographic as you do. Like, diversify yourself.
Yeah. Change your reading habits, I would say. And back to what you were saying, like the whole the loudest person gets all the attention, right? Not to get too political, that was President Trump. Good readers are good leaders. While that has some variability in it, I would say. If you are a good reader and you're reading different voices, you're thinking critically about things, I don't see how that doesn't make you a good leader. I just don't. Maybe you're a different kind of leader, but I don't see how it doesn't make you.
No, it definitely. If you are a good reader,
reader with good reading habits,
good is the word there. If you read a lot, that does not make you a good reader.
No.
But if you're a good reader, I agree with the premise that it makes you a good leader.
Like, think about Mark Driscoll, who says that he reads a book a day. I'm sorry. Gosh. Nobody reads a book a day, first of all. But that man is not a good leader.
No, he's terrible. But the other thing that I would say that I think makes a good leader, and granted, I'm young, but I've had my foot in some leadership capacity positions for, about a dozen years now. A dozen? Oh, no, about a decade. Where I've had either volunteers that I managed or staff that I managed. Good leaders are made because they're good listeners. Everything goes back to listening. Why does Elon Musk have a policy at SpaceX that they call the no asshole policy? And they fire you if you're an asshole. They give you a warning, but you will get fired. And his reason is because if you work for an awful person that doesn't care about you and doesn't listen to you, you're not going to want to come to work.
Yeah.
It's the same is true for any leader. If you don't listen to the people you're leading,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? Are you leading at all?
No. Or are you more of a drill sergeant, Correct.
And so, if you want to be a drill sergeant, cool. Yeah. I hear they're really valued in the military. Maybe you could go be that. But by and large, most of us, I think what makes a good leader for the average person is whether or not you listen to your people. And whether or not you can identify your own shortcomings. And build a team around that. Like, that's what makes a good leader. And reading a diversity of opinions, reading things from a lot of different authors, and broadening your perspective, all it does is make you a better listener because you're more informed when your people come to talk to you. Like, being a good reader, I think, helps you be a good person.
Thanks for listening to the Let's Talk podcast hosted by WellHouse Church. Be sure to give us a rating and a review if you enjoyed the episode. It's free and it helps us immensely. Also, feel free to check out our other podcasts.